Boruto as a character has evolved so much throughout the years, whether you're talking about his personality, aspirations, or his deepest desires. There's a lot to the character that adds a certain excitement to the story. Nonetheless, today I want to focus more on the evolution when it comes to the strength and power he possessed at the start of the series as opposed to what it is today. You see, Boruto was always recognized as very gifted or hailed as a prodigy, and that's because most jutsus came easy to him. We even see this as early as chapter 1, where the character is already able to perform the Shadow Clone Jutsu and easily subdue the panda, which was the main objective of their mission. Mitsuki even points out that this should be expected when it comes to the son of the 7th and grandson of the 4th. And while at face value this comment doesn't mean much, it does point to a very important factor in the power Boruto is able to display just a few chapters later. You see, as I've mentioned in countless videos before this one, Boruto won the genetic lottery, so he was always destined to be insanely overpowered, even absent of a power such as the Karma Seal. Himawari's hidden power confirms that to be the case, but we're getting way ahead of ourselves, so let's bring it back a bit. As I said before, Boruto won the genetic lottery, and due to that a lot of stuff just came naturally to him. In chapter 1 he even states that without training he was able to use 3 shadow clones right off the bat, along with wind release, lightning release, and even water release. Mind you, these are things Shinobi prior had to train for years in order to attain, but then you have this kid who's able to do it on his first try. It seems a bit contrived. However, this wasn't always the case in every instance. You see, the Rasengan, for example, was the first time Boruto ever felt challenged, because it was something a bit more complex in comparison to what he had done before. As Sarada herself points out, it's a miracle Boruto even made it this far, which implies that he doesn't normally put much effort into his trainings and more so relies on his innate prowess. However, there's always a limit to where that alone can get you. You still need to nurture it in order to unlock your full potential. Frieza from Dragon Ball Z is a prime example of this. He was born with such immense power in comparison to everyone else around him that he hadn't trained a single day in his life, but after losing to Goku, he decided to train for only 4 months and was able to attain a level of power rivaling a version of Goku who is at least 1,000,000 times stronger than the version of Goku he lost to before. This is what happens when you nurture innate talent, which is exactly what Boruto did when he decided to finally train for his Rasengan for the very first time, thus quickly gaining the ability to use it. However, this mentality didn't last for Boruto. His resolve was very weak at the time, so when Sasuke lobbied the slightest bit of criticism in regards to the size of his Rasengan, he threw a tantrum and left. This caused him to immediately regress to the mentality he had before, since to him training didn't yield the result he wanted. That state of mind left him vulnerable, which was swiftly acted upon by Katasuki. You see, all he wants is to get his technology out there in the public and sought Naruto's permission to have the kids use them during the exams, but Naruto rejected the idea. He believes that the exam should be a show of true strength and growth for the young ninjas, not a place for spectacle. Now, Katasuki was later revealed to be under the effects of genjutsu, so he was compelled to find a way to get it in there regardless. Boruto was an easy target for all the reasons I mentioned before. So when Katasuki was able to perform a perfect Rasengan using the scientific ninja tool, Boruto couldn't resist taking one for himself. Just to clarify, this isn't a recap of Boruto's entire life story. I'm more so laying the premise for my argument behind Boruto's varying power level throughout the story. Now, when it comes to the ninja tool itself, Boruto was reluctant to use it at first in the first examination, where he decided to fall into the pit and lose instead of cheating using the ninja tool. However, this changed during the second exam because he finally got the modicum of attention he so desperately wanted from Naruto due to passing the first examination. So Boruto couldn't allow himself to lose, that wasn't an option. So instead of accepting defeat, he secured the win using the jutsus Katasuki had stored in the scientific ninja tool. This continued into the third examination, and Boruto felt even more pressure since Naruto would be watching. He was a bit more discreet when using it against Yuri, but he did use the tool's power to defeat him without Naruto's knowledge. However, this changed in the battle versus Shikadai since Boruto, through pure desperation, decided to pop the multi-shadow clone jutsu with just one hand, which is absolutely insane for a kid his age, even a prodigy like himself. So of course Naruto caught on and then delivered the saddest, or one of the saddest and most second embarrassment inducing scenes I have ever seen.
You're no longer a ninja either.
Now you guys know the story. Momoshiki attacked, blew up the stadium, Naruto got captured, blah 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 blah. Okay, cool. So Boruto finally sees his father's true power and remembers Sasuke telling him that Naruto overcame all his shortcomings using his own strength. And this of course is the catalyst for him rejecting the scientific ninja tool, thus discarding it. This led to Boruto asking Sasuke what did Naruto do at times like this, which Sasuke replied to by rhetorically asking if he now wants to learn, and no. Then said perhaps Boruto has started to overcome some of his weaknesses. Not only that, he affirmed Boruto's own strength by telling him that he's a strong ninja to the point where he could even surpass Naruto if he puts his mind to it. Once again pointing out that he's Naruto's son, but also now Sasuke's student. All of this led to the moment where all the Kages along with Sasuke were pinned down by Momoshiki. So Boruto had no choice but to believe in his own power and act, which actually allowed him to knock over a powered up evolved Momoshiki, thus freeing them from the shadow paralysis jutsu. Now Naruto, through seeing Boruto's true potential for the first time, asked him to make another one and then added his own chakra, thus making Boruto's Rasengan even bigger and stronger. Once again, Sasuke's words started to resonate with Boruto. Naruto worked hard and relied on his own strength, but how much training did it take to get here? What exactly did he go through for it to get this heavy? This was the turning point for Boruto as he finally understood what it takes to attain true power. Boruto then proceeded to maneuver around this powered up Momoshiki and literally overpowered him with the Rasengan amplified by Naruto. I want you guys to understand that this evolved Momoshiki had just consumed the pills he made by absorbing half of the Nine-Tails chakra, along with the chakra he absorbed from Katasuke's ninja tool, which he used to heal his body from all prior damages. So Boruto being able to finesse this Momoshiki by maneuvering around him and even pushing him away with a Boruto stream amped punch is absolutely insane. But do you guys know what's more insane? 93% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel. That's just ridiculous, but hopefully that will change by the end of this video. Now in regards to what I said about Boruto landing his hits on Momoshiki, that was all done absent of the Jogan, by the way, so he wasn't using any mysterious dojutsu amp. With that being said, the Rasengan feat is even more insane because while the Rasengan itself is mostly Naruto's power, Boruto is the one who pushed that Rasengan into Fuse Momoshiki, thus destroying him. Without that strength Boruto displayed, Momoshiki would have forced that Rasengan back into Boruto, similar to what Buu was doing to Goku's Spirit Bomb before Goku's power was restored. Some people call this a mental amp, but I believe mental amps brings out your true power, not power you would have otherwise never attained. So in essence, Boruto already had this power but couldn't access it until this interaction with Momoshiki. But the real question is why? You see, I believe that Boruto is able to manifest this power due to a thing called resonance. Yes, this might sound familiar since it has been mentioned in Boruto's manga multiple times, but more so in reference to the Karma Seal itself. To lay it out in a more digestible way, let's put it like this. The Karma Seal itself is stated to be a highly compressed Otsutsuki Bako file. Once this file is implanted into a prospective vessel, the compressed file slowly extracts over time, and once all of that data is fully extracted, the Otsutsuki will fully resurrect within that body and the person will cease to exist. So the concept itself is actually pretty simple. And as I've said in multiple videos, we've actually seen a version of this technique before in the form of Orochimaru's cursed mark. This allowed him to impart his powerful Senjutsu chakra to someone imbued with his cursed seal, which allowed them to enter a cursed mark state or undergo sage transformation. Not only that, it was later revealed that a copy of his consciousness is stored within the seal itself, which is how Sasuke was able to resurrect him during the war. So we can see the influence in that technique on the Karma Seal itself. Now this is relevant in Boruto's case since he possesses Momoshiki's Karma Seal, which means that he possesses Momoshiki's Otsutsuki data and chakra. Now where resonance comes in is when Boruto interacts with or is in the vicinity of Kawaki, who possesses the Karma Seal of Ishiki Otsutsuki. The first time we saw this phenomenon was when Boruto first met Kawaki. We see that Kawaki's hands started to shake and Boruto immediately started to feel the sensation as well. It's then revealed that both Boruto and Kawaki had activated the Karma Seal, which had begun to spread across their bodies. Boruto himself said it feels like something is flowing into his body, which is referring to Momoshiki's power triggered by the activation of Kawaki's Karma Seal. This is later confirmed by Kashin Koji, who said the two karmas were definitely resonating with each other. This phenomenon went on to play out multiple times later on. The second time was when Boruto and Kawaki had a brief battle, which ended up triggering their Karma Seals at the same time. The third time this happened, it was more intentional than accidental, since Kawaki purposefully activated his Karma Seal in hopes that it would trigger Boruto's. It's once again pointed out that the karmas are resonating to the point where Momoshiki's presence itself surfaces after Boruto did his unison sign with Kawaki. Not only that, Kawaki is shown to be able to make Boruto purposefully stronger by resonating his karma seal with Boruto's as shown in their battle versus Boru. So at this point evidence is very clear that they are resonating, and resonating makes them stronger. But the real question is why? Why does the karma resonate and why does it make them stronger? Well, that's because the writer wanted that to be the case, obviously, but there has to be a deeper mechanic. I believe that this mechanic is the Otsutsuki data within the karma seal itself. You see, we truly know nothing about these beings, especially when it comes to how they came into existence or what their DNA consists of. So them being stronger by resonating with each other or other Otsutsukis can make sense if that's what the writer wants to be the case. So operating under that premise, this explains why the Otsutsuki travel in pairs. Well, just to clarify, in addition to the function of forming chakra fruits, the Otsutsukis are stronger together, and I mean that literally. But how exactly does this explain why Boruto was so powerful even prior to receiving his karma seal? Well, this is where the statement by Momoshiki comes in.
Now I see. It appears you have strongly inherited the powers of the Otsutsuki.
So in essence, Boruto strongly inherited the powers of the Otsutsuki, one of these powers or abilities being the power to resonate with other Otsutsukis and get stronger. This would actually explain why the same Boruto who struggled with Shikadai was later able to contend with fused Momoshiki and finessed him using base Naruto's Rasengan. Now the next question would be, why does Boruto resonate with Otsutsukis when he himself isn't an Otsutsuki? Where did he inherit this power from? Well, as I've mentioned in prior videos, Boruto is very special in the sense that he's the bridge that combines Hagoromu's and Hamura's bloodline, thus manifesting Kaguya's chakra. Boruto himself is a distant relative of the Otsutsuki since his bloodline stems directly from Kaguya's sons, thus stemming from Kaguya herself. So when Momoshiki says that Boruto strongly inherited the powers of the Otsutsuki, that's what he's referring to. Momoshiki is able to sense that power within Boruto even prior to him receiving the karma seal, and it makes perfect sense. Now you might be wondering, shouldn't this then apply to every descendant of Kaguya, which would be all the Senjus, Uzumakis, Uchihas, and even Hyugas? Well, the answer is it probably does. There's no evidence suggesting otherwise. However, it doesn't have to apply to them as well or affect them to the same degree. You see, there's this thing called recessive inheritance, which is when a genetic trait skips a generation but appears in another. In this type of inheritance pattern, a person must inherit 2 copies of the same gene, one from each parent, in order to express that trait. If a person only inherits 1 copy of the gene, they are indeed considered a carrier of the trait, but they don't show any symptoms. The trait may then skip a generation before appearing in an offspring of 2 carriers, who each possess a copy of the same gene. An example of this would be the Uzumaki, who are known for their red hair, but then you have Naruto, who doesn't possess that genetic trait. And that's because Naruto only received 1 copy of the gene from his mother since his father isn't an Uzumaki. Now then we have a thing called incomplete penetrance, which is a term used in genetics to describe a situation in which an individual inherits a genetic mutation that is known to cause a certain disorder or trait, but the individual with the trait or disorder does not express it or exhibit it in any way. In other words, the presence of the mutation does not always result in its manifestation. For example, if a genetic mutation is known to cause a particular autosomal dominant disorder and the penetrance of the mutation is incomplete, it means that not all the individuals who inherit that mutation will develop the disorder. Let's say that the incomplete penetrance of this mutation is estimated to be 80%. This means that 80% of the individuals who inherit the mutation will develop the disorder, while the remaining 20% will not. What if the penetrance level of this gene is less than 10%, which means that only less than 10% of the people who possess this gene will strongly inherit the powers of the Otsutsuki. This would explain how Boruto can have this power while other descendants of Kaguya don't or possess it to a lesser degree. So this is how you can interpret the story in where Boruto miraculously having the speed to Tagishiki and bring him to another dimension makes sense. This is how Boruto facing off with an overpowering a powered up fused Momoshiki can make sense. It all depends on if you're able to connect the dots. Now this might be complete nonsense, but it's an interesting thing to think about as we approach the time skip fiasco. Speaking of the time skip, enter Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, where Boruto is stomping on unlimited code. The same guy who stated to not just be stronger than Jigen, but to have greatly surpassed him. And Jigen of course being the same guy who fondled Naruto and Sasuke in a dying body. The power creep is absolutely insane. Now I will say that Code was in base form when this feat occurred, so one could argue that Code isn't tapping into that above Jigen level power absent of the Karma Seal, which would invalidate that scaling. However, Boruto's statements in chapter 2 where he implies that he's stronger than Code and could easily kill him does paint a different picture. And using what I said before about Boruto's latent Otsutsuki power, it does make sense that he will be able to get this strong within a span of 3 years through constant training. In some sense, the Otsutsukis are somewhat similar to the Saiyans or even Frieza, right? The Saiyans, they get beat up, they get stronger over time. Even Boruto implies that he got beat up by Code, or Code implies that he beat up Boruto 2 years ago, and now Boruto is somehow drastically stronger than Code, right? It's somewhat like the Saiyans themselves where they literally get stronger. It's not like, yo, the regular shonen protagonists, oh, they lose, they come back stronger. No, the Saiyans themselves, like genetically, they get stronger when they lose, right? So the comparisons with the events of Dragon Ball Z or the mechanics within that universe will continue till the end of time because Boruto is inspired by Dragon Ball Z. That's just a fact, you know? And it isn't really a bad thing, right, for the most part, except for those speed lines, you know, we need to get rid of them, but overall I think it's fine. With that being said, again, Boruto has this new Rasengan in chapter 2, which does seem like some Shinjutsu variation of it, so it'll be interesting to see what it's capable of later on. And of course, we're gonna make more videos about Boruto getting stronger because he will continue to get stronger. This is shonen after all. But with that being said, that's it for this video. As I said before, this was never a video about Boruto's life story or an abilities explained videos, right? So I skipped most of that. However, I do have a video explaining all of Boruto's abilities on the channel, so check it out when you have time. And also check out my top 20 strongest characters in Boruto video that most of you decided not to watch. So go check that out and give it some support. Again, with that being said, drop a like on this one, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.